We all knew that the bullpen would be the Achilles heel this season for the Blue Jays, but how bad was it really? Let's break it all down. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside Nick Gosse, and today we got a little something different for you. We're going to be breaking down the bullpen as if that hasn't been done this season before. But look, we really got to analyze the situation and call it like it is. The Blue Jays bullpen is not good, and that's been increasingly obvious with these teams that are still remaining in the playoffs. They all have fireballers coming out of the pen, and Jeff Blair, a notable Blue Jays reporter, broke it all down on Twitter and kind of dissected the whole situation.
Yeah, Jeff Blair, he often has hot takes, so this was I kind of agree with it to a degree. I'll pop it up here now. Watching this postseason, and I can't believe anybody thought the Blue Jays bullpen was up to a playoff run, and I include myself. So at least he takes some, he said he includes himself there, but he's referring to, I guess, we talked about it a couple times, obviously off camera and on camera. He's referring to the current playoff team, the situation, and what their bullpen looks like compared to what our bullpen looked like when we obviously got eliminated, and major differences between a successful team's bullpen and what we did.
Now, it's not all about velocity, but obviously that plays a very important role in a dominant bullpen, in a very successful bullpen. The Toronto Blue Jays don't have a lot of velocity, especially in the back end of their bullpen. They got guys like Tim Mesa, Jimmy Garcia that are pitching in high relief situations or high leverage situations. And I mean, they're good pitchers. They're very good pitchers, but they're very good for middle relief. And that is definitely the case for Tim Mesa, who's 94, 95 from the left side, only two pitches. There's not a lot of variety in that bullpen for the Blue Jays, and they really gotta expand their weapons that they have in there.
Yeah. You look at, even the Mariners that we played in the wild card series. Like, we knew going in they had the better bullpen. They have Munoz, or I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he was throwing like 103, 102, and they just have a bunch of guys that just, it's not all about velocity like you said, but the teams left in the playoffs, mainly the Astros. I've been watching a few of their games, and man, they seem to have 10 people out of the bullpen, like sub 3 ERA, who could just go out there and, you just trust them to get 3 outs. And we have maybe 3 of those people who we trust fully. I don't even know if we'd go 3, but we have Romano and we have, Bass, which backfired. But I don't know. It's just like the teams left. Obviously, the Dodgers, they got eliminated, but they had a great bullpen. The teams that are built for long-term, like, playoff success seem to have 3 times as many dominant arms as we do. So it's something that is, I kind of agree with Jeff. It's that the fact that we thought that they could, make it with their bullpen, I don't know. It's kind of crazy to think about.
And if you look at the Astros and the Mariners series, that game three went 18 innings. It just shows the depth that both teams have on their pitching staffs. And if the Blue Jays were involved in that game, I don't even think it goes to extra innings.
Yeah. We don't know who we'd use. Maybe we'd use a starter. Who knows with that? But really, after the big loss the Jays had, it's kind of putting everything in perspective, and it might end up obviously working out for the better, because it would have been a tough series against the Astros anyway. They're a nuts team. But yeah, the bullpen, we're gonna end up having even more videos on the bullpen. But yeah, the Astros specifically, unreal bullpen. I don't know how they do it. It seems like they get them out of nowhere, or they make trades. Like, we should have made a trade for a higher leverage arm in this trade deadline.
All those teams that you mentioned, they have deeper farm systems. They have like more options, more arms in their farm systems, and it just helps them out a ton. When you get to October, you could call those guys up, you could develop them in their system, and all those teams, they have more options. They spend more money to bolster their bullpens than the Jays do, and it's always been like that from dating back from 2015-16. Our bullpens were always not as strong as other teams.
Yeah, and internally for the Blue Jays, you have a couple. We have a few promising pitchers, not necessarily bullpen pitchers, but I guess the one person who, and I've saw a few comments about it, is I guess Nate Pearson. Obviously, he is about the only one that I can think of off the top of my head right now that could come in next season and hopefully have an impact, because he obviously throws fast. But a lot of it's development too, though. Like you said, like the Astros, they have they're a great organization. Obviously, the cheating thing, but like pitching wise, they develop pitchers. They have unreal starting pitching, unreal bullpen, and they take people who oftentimes aren't good, and turn them into just bullpen stars. So it's something hopefully we can do because P. Walker's a pretty good pitching coach. So I don't know. It's just a matter of identifying more, I guess, talent and acquiring it. Maybe at some point soon, hopefully, having to actually pay a decent price instead of just doing the dumpster diving like Ross has been known to do the past few seasons.
And I love to use the Mariners as an example. I just love their team. I love their culture. I love what they're doing over there in Seattle. Look at them. They have all these young arms, and they're not afraid to call them up early. They're not afraid to call up a guy like George Kirby, a guy like Logan Gilbert. George Kirby's a starter,
Yeah.
and he's giving you solid innings out of the bullpen because he doesn't crack your starting rotation in the ALDS. But that's just another example of these teams that are not afraid to promote their electric arms that are in their farm systems. They want to go for it.
Yeah, and the Jays kind of are starting to do that more. With Manoah, obviously, they called him up Kirk, but it kind of brings the question then: do you think we'll see Ricky Tiedemann soon? Who knows? It could be as early as maybe year after next. I don't know. It depends, but yeah, the way I love the Mariners. Obviously, we respect the team. I don't love them, but I respect their team. And I guess let's try to get into shortly we've done this a couple times, but do you have any other bullpen pieces you would like us to acquire? And if not, just a type of pitcher, just velocity or.
I mean, the crown jewel in this free agent class is obviously Edwin Diaz from the New York Mets, who was the best closer in baseball this year, and that would be an unreal get for the Blue Jays in the offseason. We spoke a lot about David Bednar.
Yep.
We'd like to see that would be a great addition, but anyone that throws hard and can strike guys out, that's a welcome sight, a welcomed addition to this pen.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I think we talked about that off camera a few times. The Edwin Diaz thing. It would obviously be a dream. We also Brandon Nimmo and Edwin Diaz, just take both of them. But no, obviously Edwin Diaz we'd have to throw a lot of money at him. And are the Jays comfortable doing that? I doubt it. Are we comfortable doing that? I don't know. It's not our money, but in the sense of like long-term relievers is kind of scary. And yeah, I'm a Gregory Soto stan, so I'll stick with him. I think he's attainable. That's the main reason, because like the Tigers aren't contending yet. They're trying to, but they're not there. I think we just target the teams that are not really going for the playoffs and just identify velocity to some degree, because obviously velocity isn't everything, but our bullpen lacks it severely. So even if it's a pitcher whose ERA isn't the best, just some velocity in there to change things up, and we could be done internally. I'm sure that's what Ross Atkins would say if asked.
Yeah, of course he would say that. That's his go-to line when asked about how he plans to address a certain need within the team. But we'll talk about the Tigers a little bit. They have so many options in their bullpen, so many great young arms, and it's actually insane considering how bad of a team they are.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I said the Tigers. The issue that could arise though is that they have a decent, they signed Javi Baez, yeah. But like they want to contend, so are they open to? And I think that's partially why they didn't trade Soto last offseason or trade deadline, is because that was a popular thing that was going around. It was a rumor that was happening, and not just with the Blue Jays, is because they want to contend, and he obviously still has some control left. So yeah, I don't know how they're so bad, really, and they're probably on the come up. So maybe a Soto isn't might not happen, but I don't know. A player like that would be a welcome addition.
Well, they traded Michael Fulmer, who was one of their best relievers. They traded him to Minnesota, and I guess you could chalk that up to the fact that he was going to be a free agent soon.
Yeah, exactly.
He's been in the majors for a while, but a guy like Gregory Soto, who doesn't even have a year of major league experience, why would you want to give a guy up like that?
Exactly, and that's where it comes. You got to pay to get. So if they wanted him, I'm sure there was a price that the Tigers would have taken. It just would have been a really expensive one, and that's what it comes down to. Is it's kind of hard to evaluate bullpen trades because they're so volatile. Like Edwin Diaz, for example, only a few years ago, his first year with the Mets, like 4 point or near 5 ERA, and now he's back to his dominant self. Josh Hader was awful for a while, and now he's had one of the most dominant innings I've ever seen in the past playoff game against the Dodgers. So it's a hard thing to evaluate, and it's honestly a hard thing to come up with trades for strictly relievers. So which is why I think the Jays probably go with a bundle thing if they go for a trade, like they get a position player and a bullpen arm, or a starter and a bullpen arm.
You just see it. The teams that are left in the playoffs, and we touched on it a little bit earlier in the video. Like let's look at the Cleveland Guardians. We'll use them as an example.
Yeah,
The back end of their bullpen, Joan Duran and Emmanuel Clase,
yeah,
who
and
throws a
Karinchak as well.
102, yeah, who throws a 103-mile-an-hour cutter. It's just disgusting. He's one of the best closers in baseball right now. I think number two, uh, to Edwin Diaz, as we mentioned before.
Yeah,
But he like and that's why they're making a run. They play the right way. They put balls in play. Their offense isn't electric by any means, but they pitch and they have swing and miss stuff in their bullpen, which is key.
yeah, and their payroll is compared to the Yankees. Game 3 is on, or whatever. Game 5 is on tonight. I'm curious to see how that's going to go. But Class A is dominant. Like watching him, it's similar to Edwin Diaz. I'd put Class A probably 1, and then Diaz 2. But
Okay.
it's close. It's negligible. But they're like if we had a close now. Jordan Romano's been great, and I don't know if it's a matter of needing to get a new closer necessarily, as much as it is just another piece around him. But the bullpen needs to be fixed, and that's really what this video was about. And it's even more evident in the past week or so with the playoffs, how they broke down.
If I'm going to be honest, I don't think Jordan Romano is a closer on a World Series contending team, and it's not a knock on him. It's just he was forced into that position just because of the lack of options that the Blue Jays had. He started closing games a little bit last season, and that's because Kirby Yates got injured in spring training and wasn't able to pitch all year long. But there's just not enough options there to justify putting anyone else in that role. So that's why Romano was kind of shoved into there. He did a great job, but a dominant closer, is supposed to be 13 Ks per nine, 14 Ks per nine. Romano was 9 Ks per nine, which is still good, but you got to have a bit more swing and miss if you're going to be a dominant closer. And I think Romano's ideal spot is the eighth inning.
That's a interesting take. I see where you're coming from, and regarding like a World Series contender, who knows? Because he's still I'll say he's young, but he's like inexperienced in the bullpen. He still has a ways to go. He's been dominant the past 2 years though, like sub or low 2 ERAs, but regardless, we do need another high K per nine guy, and whether he's in the ninth inning or the eighth inning. It doesn't really matter to me. Obviously, if we get a dominant closer, then I'm fine replacing Jordan with that. But just even an eighth inning guy who gets a lot of Ks per nine would make me happy, and it's something that we'll be sure to talk about more in future videos. But it needs to be addressed, and sure.
Well, I mean, Christmas, I guess you could say Christmas is around the corner. You know what I want for Christmas, Nick? I want a reliever that throws 100 plus in the Blue Jays bullpen. That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah, you see teams like the Orioles. We play in the Orioles, and they'll have. I used Brian Baker before. Brian Baker, we used to have him, but he throws 100 miles an hour. We don't really have someone who does that consistently. Now, most teams, or a lot of teams, don't. But if we need someone who throws fast, even just to change up the look of things, and maybe that's internal, maybe hopefully that's external, and we're able to make a trade or a signing.
We hope that the Blue Jays can get something done in the offseason, and it looks like they will. I don't think they'll stand pat. You can't stand pat after that type of disappointing loss that you had, that type of collapse. But you guys aren't standing pat. You guys have been killing that subscribe button, killing the like button. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and it's just been an unbelievable journey. We're gonna get there. I think we're gonna get there by next season.
Yeah, that's the goal, or maybe even sooner. Sport's been crazy, and we say this at the end of every video, but I mean, keep it up and keep the comments going. We love having conversations.
And if you're still here, thank you so much for watching. We'll have a video for you tomorrow. Peace.